Radar Update. My name is Daniel Vallis and welcome to our channel. This is the radar view from Jerusalem on the 24th on the Gregorian calendar. This is what it looked like at sunset today over there. So Jupiter and Venus are drawing closer to the border, to the mark that defines the rear of the hind leg, the border of Leo 2 as well. And we see that Mercury is leading the way as the messenger. The sun is just past Regulus. So celestially, we are drawing down to the wire. And we have over a day still in the timeline. The 26th is iffy. That's why it's in pink, because Jupiter would be technically entering the stars of the woman on that day. But we know for sure on the 27th, Jupiter will be reaching Zavijava, the B star in Virgo. So this is what we're looking at right now, but we've seen a lot leading up to this point. So we keep going forward in faith, just like the wise virgins. Keep going forward. We've heard the announcement. We have heard so many prophetic calls. So we have risen up and we're going out to meet the bridegroom. I was finally able to see Jupiter again last night. We had a whole week of rain and I hadn't been able to see it for a while. So it's nice and reassuring to see it again. And it really does something for you when you can go outside and see this sign in the heavens. Now, this isn't a sign that nobody can see or is clothed with the sun or anything like that. No, this sign people have been able to see for months now. And it reassures and helps draw to reality this prophecy when we can look up into the sky and see, yes, there's Jupiter and there's Venus and they're coming together and they're getting ready to have another Star of Bethlehem reminder. And of course, we've already seen two. That should catch our attention. And now that the fact that there's going to be a third one, there's a lot drawing our attention right to this time right now. They're shining bright. They're hard to miss even right now. And they're going to be getting closer and closer to each other in the days ahead. But on the bottom is Venus, that's the brighter one, and then Jupiter is above it. They're very bright, they're very hard to miss, they're very steady light too as well. So they're both drawing closer and closer to the horizon, and Jupiter's going to be at the horizon by September 2nd, the Feast of Trumpets anyway. It's going to be leaving the stage right at the end of this year we are in right now. And this third star, Bethlehem, is going to be shortly before that, shortly above the horizon, only seen for a few minutes. But we must not overlook the power of this visible sign. The Bible says that heavens declare, and their line goes out throughout the whole world. Everyone around the world can see this sign, and that should catch our attention. This isn't something you have to use astronomy software to see. This isn't some vague celestial thing that happens when it's below the horizon that nobody can see. No, this is a visible sign that has been declared for months now. And reminds us back to the Star of Bethlehem sightings that were last year. And we've come to the average median anniversary of those just a few days ago, remember? So our attention has been drawn to this time for a reason. We've had a year of preparation and purification. We've had a year of warnings that the trumpet call at midnight has been going out. Get yourself ready, rise up, go out to meet the bridegroom. And when we look back in hindsight at all that has been shown to us and things put up into the sky that people around the world have noticed and mentioned in social media and the news, the world is going to have no excuse that they have not noticed these signs. They may not have understood the full importance of what they represented, but the world did notice the signs. And so did we. And as we understood from a biblical context what the first star of Bethlehem's represented, and in connection with all the other prophetic events going on right now, we listened to the call to rise up and go out and meet the bridegroom. We started digging and looking more into what Scripture says of how we should be getting ready. And as we went forward in faith, we were given more and more light about understanding the specifics of what this sign meant. And the third star, Bethlehem, is going to be even closer than they were back then. The one that's coming up in a few days, it's going to be 3 times as close to each other. It's going to be almost appearing as one star. It's going to be really unique. And several months ago, this picture's from several months ago, we were talking about Jupiter stands out so much in the night sky, you can't miss it. And several people commented even of how they noticed this bright star in the twilight evening. They took note of it even before they came to our channel, even before they found out that it was Jupiter even. They took notice of it. The signs are meant to be seen. And we have seen not only the sign and particular celestial actors in it, but the more we study it and see what it has been doing recently, we see a story being told. I was looking on spaceweather.com's gallery last night and someone posted a time lapse that they had done over the months and weeks of Jupiter at the hind foot. And I thought this was really unique because we pointed this out several weeks ago that Jupiter its path through Leo this time did a perfect circle around the hind foot. I wish they had done a complete time-lapse of the whole thing, but just seeing half of it, this is what drew our attention to it. We're not just looking at just Jupiter. We're not even looking at just Jupiter in Leo. We've been looking at Jupiter's choreography of how it danced around the leg in a perfect circle, drawing our attention to it, and how it danced with Venus as the two-star Bethlehem signs reminding us. This whole story that we've seen over the past year has all happened right here on this Leo stage. This should catch our attention. We're not just seeing random events. We're seeing choreography. We talk about a lot of this in our Shiloh booklet, so definitely download it. There's a lot of details here rehearsing what has happened and the biblical significance of the different actors that are on the stage right now. So definitely reference that. There's a lot of information in that. And it all goes back to the story that is told from the very first page on the Bible and the second page on the Bible about the woman and her seed and the serpent, and how the Lion of the tribe of Judah will eventually crush the serpent, the beginning, and how it relates to the ending. And here we are at the threshold between the beginning and the ending, the Alpha and Omega. Right now on the story in the heavens right now, we are at the point between those two. The first part was fulfilled largely at the beginning in Virgo. It did start in Leo, but we should expect the Lion of the tribe of Judah to gather his people, just like the Shiloh prophecy says. We saw the beginning take place in the beginning, so we should expect the ending to take place in the ending too as well, in Leo, in that part, because that's where the story is. And that's how Revelation 5 starts too, with the Lion of the tribe of Judah with his gathered people, before he even opens the first seal on the tribulation book. So we are at a very incredible time on the celestial story, on the prophetic story, and we see the choreography rehearsing the tapestry of redemption for us. And we talk about this in the Shiloh booklet of the different stages of the prophecy and how he came as both the king and the lawgiver and just a lot of different aspects. So definitely rehearse the material in the Shiloh booklet. The link is in the description box. And in our last video, we talked about the importance of Babylonian astronomy, which goes back to Sumerian astronomy, which goes back to Ur of the Chaldees, which is also where Abraham was. And we talk about him in the Shiloh booklet and his relationship to that. But the Babylonian astronomy is very important. And I've done more reading on this since our last video too as well, just trying to get a bigger understanding of the importance of what was the predominant astronomical viewpoint, what was the data set, what was the perspective, what was the astronomical viewpoint used and predominant in the Middle East and in that whole region at the time of the wise men, at the time of the Star of Bethlehem. Well, it was the Babylonian Sumerian astronomy viewpoint. The Babylonian pick up from the Sumerians. But we talked about this before of how the ancient people have an understanding of the main actors in the ecliptic storyline. They know the serpent, they know the lion, the woman. The main identity of the figures, that's not in doubt. Satan has distorted the story and understanding that is associated with those objects. But they were well familiar, and even today, the objects and actors themselves have not changed much. The story has been distorted. And so we can look back at the Babylonian astronomy, which was prevalent at the time of Christ's coming, and we have looked at how their understanding of where the hind leg was and Leo the lion, and how that matches up with even a guesstimate, an educated guess that we had come to when looking at needing to define a border between the woman and Leo at Zavijava. And so this is just an incredible confirmation that not only are we looking at the right border division point, but we're also looking at the border point that was the same frame of reference that the wise men were using when looking at the story in the heavens. So again, this goes part of our learning journey of blending together the different historical perspectives and finding out what are the important aspects that were involved at the time of his first coming. We should consider those when we are expecting his second coming, particularly when they were in play, the same similar signs with the Star of Bethlehem and Jupiter and Venus and Regulus, the same actors, the same story. So we need to look at how that play was played back then to help an understanding of what we're seeing now. And the wise men did not see just one singular event. They saw a tapestry too as well, with Jupiter and bringing focus to Regulus, and then there's the Star Bethlehem with Jupiter and Venus right after that too as well. They saw a mini tapestry too as well. They saw a chain of events. particularly with the planet circling Regulus and drawing attention to that. And now we see Jupiter circling the hind foot, bringing attention to the latter part of the prophecy. But when we look at the star charts that we've been looking at and the concepts of Leo the lion and where it's at and the ecliptic, the storyline, we have our modern concept of the lion stick figure. But in the Babylonian astronomy, they defined the border of Leo right at Epsilon and Omicron, and their understanding of the border at the end of the lion was right at Zavijava, the B star, right where Leo and Virgo touch, essentially. But they regarded that star as the boundary, the rear boundary of Leo, and that's what we're looking at right now. And since this was the concept that the wise men understood at the time Christ came the first time, it does us well to consider it when we are expecting Christ to come the second time, and to pick up his purchased possession, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, returning to pick up his beloved. And so we find the celestial actors who are rehearsing this story for us in picturing the scepter. Since the scepter has ascended to heaven, this is where we see it now. Just like the wise men saw the biblical reference that the scepter was going to be represented by a star. Now that the scepter, the true scepter, Jesus Christ, has ascended back up into heaven with the scepter holding the power and title, now we pick up the story, and the story is essentially repeating again. We are looking for the scepter in the heavens because that's where it is again. And so we are seeing a repeat, in a sense, of the wise men's story and the events around that. But at a little different progression on the celestial story, because the prophecy tells us that it's going to end at a different point on the story, and instead of ending at the beginning, it's going to end at the ending, at the Lion of the tribe of Judah. So let's take a look at some of the actors on the stage right now. We have Regulus, which is known as the king, the kingly, the royal star. And in the Chaldean understanding, the Babylonian understanding, it had the idea of the foot, or to tread underfoot. And so that's why this is often associated with kings, because this is what kings would often do, is they would literally put their foot on the neck of their enemies, and it was a demonstration of their power. And so that's why Regulus became associated as the king and the royal star, the king star. So that has significance that it is also in Leo, associated with Judah, which is also the royal line too. But then at the other end we see Dinabola, which in Hebrew is the judge who comes, the Lord who comes with haste, the prince. And it's very appropriate that the tail, Dinabola, is at the end of the story, right at the meeting point between the ending and the beginning, on the celestial circle, the celestial storyline. Right at the end of the story, right at Omega, we have a star signaling that there is a judge who will come. The Lord will come with haste. And that's what we are expecting at this point, literally, is we are expecting him to come quickly and pick up his beloved. And we see forming the border is Beta Virginius, and different names that I'm not going to try to pronounce, but it means beautiful Lord. And in the Babylonian astronomy and Sumerian too, it was the rear-footed lion. So that is the boundary. And remember, the Babylonian astronomy picked up from the Sumerian. They basically just kept on going. But the Sumerian astronomy and understanding of the border of Leo was the same as when Abraham was alive. And it was also the understanding that the wise men would have used too as well. So this gives us a very good, strong frame of reference for knowing where is the hind foot, especially in a prophecy given by Abraham's descendants. They would understand the rear of the lion and the legs of the lion to be ending right here at Zavijava. And right now we also see Mercury on the scene. And since Mercury is the fastest moving planet in the night sky, it has long been associated as the messenger in multiple cultures because it's the fastest moving planet. And even the Bible makes a nod that Mercurius was associated with the messenger. And so all of our understanding of the actors on the stage right now is very solid. There's really no question about who is who and what is representing what. Mercury is the messenger. In our last video, we talked about how, as the messenger, it would represent John the Baptist, who the Bible tells us and was prophesied ahead of time that he would be a messenger to prepare the way for Jesus Christ. And even Jesus Christ said, John the Baptist is the messenger. But John also said that he was the friend of the bridegroom, remember? He was acting the role of the best man. And so when we see this double picture on the scene, we see the messenger bringing the bride toward the bridegroom, The messenger is going on ahead, and he's getting things ready too as well, but then he's about to turn back and go off the scene because his job is done. He's not the bridegroom, he's the friend of the bridegroom. And if you haven't yet, definitely download our Bride of Christ poster. We have it on our Google Drive in the Christian Living section that explores the Jewish wedding model. And once you understand how that plays out, the story really becomes alive of all the different references that are in Scripture. Understanding the Jewish wedding model is critical to understanding a lot of parables and illustrations that Jesus Christ used. Then we also have Venus, which is currently the evening star because it's seen in the evening. And the Hebrew meant the she planet, the bright one, and reminds us of Esther, whose name means beautiful as the morning star. And so it's interesting we have Venus with the attribute of the evening star right now, which reminds us of the other aspect that it isn't right now. And so we are striving to be as beautiful as the morning star. And this pictures the bride going to the bridegroom. And then we have Jupiter, the king planet. And this, again, is well known through multiple cultures and throughout history. There's no question about what represents the scepter, what represents the king. It's Jupiter. And in Hebrew, it has the idea of justice and righteousness. And this is what the king does, because the king was the lawgiver. He was the chief judge. He didn't just sit on the throne eating grapes all day. No, he heard cases. He was the judge. He was the top of the line. He was the lawgiver. He was the final decider in many cases. And so the king would rule with justice. The king would rule with righteousness. And you will see that allusion and mention made throughout the New Testament and even prophecy too as well of how Messiah Shiloh would come and rule with righteousness because he's ruling with justice, because he's the lawgiver and the judge and the king, all in one. These are different aspects of the same person. And even the Bible tells us this, Isaiah 33:22. For the Lord is our judge, the Lord is our lawgiver, the Lord is our king. He will save us. The lawgiver and the king and the judge are all the same person, but different attributes and jobs and responsibilities of him. And again, this is the historical understanding of kings. They were the king. They held the scepter. We're familiar with Solomon and his association with the lions and how he was from the line of Judah. He held the scepter. He was royalty, but he was also the judge. And he heard cases, and he made decisions, and he ruled and judged righteously. See, a judge can judge in your favor, or he can judge not in your favor. We should live so that we are rewarded, so that he will smile upon us, so that when we stand before the judging panel, when we stand before the throne, so that a good judgment is handed down. We are rewarded for being faithful. That's what we should strive for. But Christ even told us there will be some of his servants that he will call foolish, that he will call wicked, that he will call slothful, that he will call hypocrite. He is our king. He is our lawgiver. And he is also our judge. And so this is embodied in Jupiter. And then we also have the sun on the scene too as well. In Hebrew, it means servant. And even they will tell you that God made the sun to be a light, to be a servant for mankind, to provide light. The sun is not to be worshipped. The sun is our servant. So this is an interesting contrast to Jupiter, which is the king, but the sun is the servant. But the Bible will use attributes of the other actors when referring to Christ every now and then, of shining bright like the sun, or shining bright like Venus, or the sun of righteousness, how it rises with brightness. It will mention those attributes in association with Christ, but Jupiter is the star that actually represents the king. But we have to keep in mind on the celestial clock, the sun moves through the 12 story parts every single year, has a circuit, so that is not unique. But it should catch our attention that right now the sun is pointing directly to Leo, to the lion of the tribe of Judah, right at the omega point in the story. Right at this time, the sun is like the hour hand on a clock. The moon is like the minute hand. So not only is the sun picturing the sun of righteousness arising, but it's also pointing to this story is being taken place. We see so much taking place in this final omega part of the story. The ending, when the lion of the tribe of Judah is coming to gather his people. And we've seen multiple things leading up to this point, and we are expecting the harvesting, we are expecting the gathering, we are expecting the judge, our judge, who has told us he is coming quickly, that we should have an ear to hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He has told us all this. So we see it all coming together in the points ahead. So we must make sure we are shining bright. We must make sure we are living faithful and shining bright so that we will be judged faithful. We have seen so many signs. We have seen so much choreography, so much of the prophetic message drawing us to this point that we will be without excuse when he does come to gather his bride. So let us live faithfully, and in light of everything we have been shown, let us rise up, let us shine bright. And on top of all the choreography we've seen, we've talked about how we are at an important time on the celestial clock and the prophetic clock too as well, with prophecy and this being the last generation, and how this sign ain't going to be happening again for hundreds of years, really. We are at an important time with the tribulation about to start, and we know that's on the celestial story too as well, with the serpent being crushed, and that's part of the tribulation, and the cup being poured out. We see multiple things that tell us we are at the time. We also know that there is no plan B. This celestial sign will not be repeated anytime soon. Nowhere near anytime soon. So we take all of this, all the light we've been shown, all the choreography we've been shown, all the tapestry of redemption that we've been shown, and we consider how Christ told us that this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. We have seen this story and the play rehearsed. Decades ago, the play started, and we see us at the expected end already. And we see that this sign will not happen again within this time frame. We have full expectation that more is about to be fulfilled within this window. Because we also see other celestial signs and markers on the horizon too as well, that also go with the story. When we know where we are in the story, that helps us have an understanding and faith and strength to rise up and go out to meet the bridegroom. And I'm also going to put this slide up on our Google Drive so you can print it out for reference as well. So much coming together. A story that you should study and that has great importance. So much coming together right now. We see that we are coming down to the wire. And like the Bible says, watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Serve Christ faithfully. Shine bright for him, first and highest above all else. Maranatha.